everyone. It's 9 o'clock and I would like to call this meeting to order. I don't think we're going to have anyone remotely participating today, so there's no need for that remark. But what I would like to do first, Mary. You good? All right. So as is customary for the board, we'd like to begin with a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I would like to take a moment to turn it over to Dr. Coons for just 1 minute for an introduction.
Well, I just want to say thank you for the Library of Virginia for hosting us in the event. I don't know how many of you know this, but on Tuesday morning, team members started showing up at the James Monroe Building at 6 a.m. and we had no power. And we had no power all day, and we wanted to make sure that we could continue the continuity of operations for the state board to make sure they had the opportunity. The Library of Virginia came to our aid and wishes provided us all the tech support, all the space, and all the everything we need to be able to ask more. At the same time, here's the third century of operation for the Library of Virginia. So I'm so excited to welcome the new librarian of Virginia, Dennis Clark, on his very first day as the 10th librarian of Virginia. He comes to us from the Library of Congress, where he was the chief researcher engagement and general chief of research engagement and general collection. It's a significant experience to Virginia. Library's mission. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Dr. Coons and board. It is indeed my pleasure to welcome you to this meeting here at the Library of Virginia. We're very happy that we've been able to provide that level of support for you when buildings sometimes don't cooperate. As Dr. Coons said, today is an auspicious day for the Library of Virginia. It begins our 3rd century, having been founded on January 24th, 1823. And again, this day is my first day. I'm supposed to be in my HR orientation, but instead I wanted so I wasn't able to print anything out because I don't have access to a printer. So I'm reading off my phone here. But again, it is my great pleasure. As Dr. Coons said, I come most directly from the Library of Congress, but I was also I worked in library administration at both VCU and UVA for about a decade between 2011. Virginia is very much to me, and it's an amazing institution. The Library of Virginia, as it starts its 3rd century, I went and took a quick look. It's 80 years older than the Department of Education. So it seemed like an interesting connection. But the library, like the Department of Ed, has been actively engaged with making sure students and teachers around the state have been understanding primary sources, understanding Virginia's history, stories, and that is certainly the mission that we have. It is in preserving those stories that we find ourselves probably our most solemn facet of what we do here at the Library of Virginia. That preservation of stories, that making those stories available primarily digitally is what we strive to do, and how we know that we are reaching educators, teachers, students around the Commonwealth. And it's because we've been doing this for the last 200 years or so that we have had the opportunity to have a positive influence not only on our own Commonwealth, but on the way that stories are preserved throughout the globe. The Library of Virginia is a leader in terms of practices and policies available and ensuring that the stories are documents, the stories made available. A particular interest to this body is our engagement with teachers about today's students. You may know that the library is home to the Brown Teacher Researcher Fellowship, which offers fellowships, studies and history teachers, grades 4 through 12, to be able to use the library collections and to turn those into. We work with them, we collaborate with them as well. And this last summer, the teacher fellowships have focused on the stories that are not typically the ones that we hear in our own history, ones that are either hidden or neglected from mainstream narratives. And that's a great thing that we get to do. We just uncover them. In addition, the library this last summer, the last 2 summers, teacher initiative institutes in all of the 8 regions of the state as part of the Brown Teacher Initiative. The library also publishes a significant number of resources. Digitally, so people around the Commonwealth can access the Library of Virginia's collections. They don't have to actually be here in Richmond. And orientations for educators and researchers. And as we look for a future renovation project of this space, first just students in space and even more. I'll close with this promise as the newest employee of the Commonwealth in the room, that the library will continue to connect with Virginia students and teachers in order to bring their creativity and their fresh eyes perspective onto the documents and the stories that we have been stewarding over the last 200 years and continue to steward as they are created. Thank you again. Very productive.
Yes, we are very excited in the educational community to have you and to have you partner with the department. And we look forward as we are working through many sets of standards and professional development. Dr. Sorensen in the back is our Deputy of Teaching and Learning. We are really looking forward to partnering with you. Welcome to Virginia.
HR. On to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Aye.
Aye. And chair votes aye. Staff has provided the board with the draft minutes before the meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Holton?
I'd like to propose a substitute motion. I'd like to amend to clarify one item on the minutes. If I may, shall I make my substitute motion now? Is that the right process?
Sure.
I move that we approve the amendments with one change, that in the final paragraph of item D, which is the SOQ prescriptions, there was, well, let me, just by way of background, there was some confusion about the language on the at-risk add-on, and had a recommendation written up incorrectly, and then I made a verbal motion. So the minutes refer to the recommendation 1, which I think would be the outdated written version. So that would be the basis of my motion to clarify that instead of saying, whose minutes say made a motion to approve prescription as amended to include recommendation 1 and to remove the cost estimate. Instead of that language, I would say made a motion to use prescription G as amended to read as follows. And I would quote from the document, which is posted on the website, which accurately reflects that amendment as follows. The board recommends the General Assembly consolidate the at-risk add-on program and the prevention investigation program, create a new at-risk program under the standards of quality. The at-risk program would be allocated based on each school division's weighted identified student percentage and 60% of funding would be distributed to divisions using a flat per student rate. 40% would be distributed using a variable rate based on the concentration of poverty.
Dr. Siebert,
Aye.
Dr. Northern,
Aye.
Ms. Fulton.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, as stated in the board's bylaws, it is the pleasure of the board to accept public comment on all matters related to public education in Virginia. If the public would like to provide us with any comment, we do ask that you provide your name and affiliation at the beginning of your comments. Speakers shall limit their comments to 3 minutes. And I'm not for the. I was wondering whether the technology would follow us today, and we have such wonderful staff, and they are amazing. So you're gonna see the screen is green at 3 minutes, and then at 2 minutes, or sorry, 1 minute, it turns yellow, and then as your time starts ticking down, the screen will be turning red. So if you have any comments, at the door. He will provide those. Okay, so at this time, our first speaker is.
Good morning, everybody. President Creasy, Dr. Coons, and members of the Board of Education. My name is Scott Brabrand. I'm Executive Director for the Virginia Association of School Superintendents. I'm here to comment on a couple of items before you, both today and yesterday in your work session. First item, the accountability model feedback. Keep the equal growth rating, but also keep the graduation completion index, or GCI. Strongly support the equal weighting around growth and achievement of the elementary and middle school accountability model. We're concerned, though, about the feedback of using only the federal graduation indicator, dropping the GCI for high school students. Dropping the GCI, which has served Virginia students for almost 20 years, but eliminate the opportunity for some students to have other certified paths to graduation, the Applied Studies Diploma or the GED. Please keep the GCI as an indicator. Before you decide on the system, score percentages for identifying schools for support for comprehensive or targeted support, out of CSI or TSI. Assess right now how well the levels of support you have between BDOE and I think that will help you. Those proper supports, neither approach that you would choose would be successful. Item 2, decouple ELA and math standards implementation here. We applaud the new math standards and we applaud the new ELA standards that are before you. However, implementing new math and new ELA standards at the same time next year will overwhelm the workload of our teachers, particularly at elementary. The new ELA standards strategically align with VLA, the Virginia Literacy Act. So that really is the priority for next year, and we urge you to consider perhaps staggering standards out, the remaining history and science standards, one each year over the next 3 to 4 years. Really look and listen to what. And then finally, item 3, share the SOL NAEP crosswalks and the dynamic instruction guides as soon as possible. I know the state superintendent says soon may actually even be today, so that's awesome. We applaud the work of crosswalk with the new math and ELA standards. NAEP, which has had a lot of attention. Teachers need to know those need to have those crosswalk documents so they know what the SOL standards are and what those NAEP standards. So we look forward to having them so they can begin to prepare next year. We encourage too the rollout of the dynamic instruction guides on the framework to help teachers implement these new math standards. Thanks to Dr. Coons and our staff for continuing to collaborate with superintendents and us. We look continuing to work with our team in the months ahead. Happy New Year to all of you.
Thank you.
Next.
Morning, it's like my first time here, so.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It makes me so feel so welcome. I want to tell you, I appreciate the friendly rooms because Virginia is like passive and Thank you. So my name is Mary Ottenot, Maryottinot. I'm a registered nurse, been a nurse for about 14 years, and I'm originally from Chicago and I was working with youth for the last 4 years. I have 3 children who have disabilities, and it's what we consider twice exceptional. They all have IEPs, and I am an IEP. I have specialties in psych, disabilities, pediatrics, geriatric, and I do also case management. My policy work in Chicago included early learning council. I was part of the quality policy council for Heart. I also was one of 13 parents at district leadership for the Plant Board of Governors. And I also, the last initiative that I worked on was Every Child in Chicago. It's a public and partner partnership. So why am I here at the board today? Me and my children and my family became victims of the system. It's unfortunate that we have different things in the state level doesn't really understand. I've learned so much about the state of Virginia, and currently the policy work I'm doing is for our Virginia Advisory Council, and I chair it because I'm still committed to this work. So the bad actors that were decided to make up allegations about my family. They lied to everything under the sun, and everybody was billing money in our names. And my children tried to report to the communities that were attached to our family. I asked for them to report. Nobody would report. What policies can we do? Understanding the difference here in Virginia, that localities handle their own affairs level. What can we do at the state level to ensure safety? My children beg for help. I beg for help. As Kelly Conrita, I remember seeing her in a different space, and I asked her, is there anything? She didn't really answer. She was like the person. We need better for our students. We've had external to the system, but it's internal to the system. Thank you, Ms. Combs. Now we have.
Are there any other members of the public here that would like to address the board during our public comment period that did not sign up on our website? Please come forward.
Good morning. My name is Emily Klein, and I'm a resident of Chesterfield County, an alumni of Midlothian High School. I have a sophomore at Midlothian High School, and I have an 8th grader at a private school for students with language-based learning disabilities. I really wanted to just kind of address the problems that I'm seeing in schools. Kids aren't held accountable for their academics. Academic performance is rewarded for little effort. The rigor is not there. My high schooler is not prepared for the future. And it falsely sets them up for the future, thinking that they can put in little effort and gain reward. They're not held accountable for behavior. The fact that he comes home every day and there's the smell of marijuana throughout the halls, it's disturbing. Kids aren't held accountable for their behavior which is why we don't have teachers. And costs. They're not held accountable for behaviors. We're setting them up for failure in the future. And, they will be held accountable. And what will that look like? I know sometimes parents can be blind and defensive of their kids, and not my child. But I see the same problem. VDOE protects the LEA. The LEA protects the individual school. So a lot of times we choose to be blind and get defensive. And I've seen that as an IEP mom. And when there are problems in Chesterfield County with special education, I can have teachers tell you, I can't tell you this because the office told me not. But we can't do that because the office. And then you complain to the VDOE. Nobody responds or listens. Samantha Hollins covers up for people. This happened to Thomas Wilson. He was the one person to me. We spent 5 hours together. Samantha Hollins told him to no longer speak to me and met with me privately to tell me this. He said they know that there's a problem with the hearing officers. They know there's a problem with the special education system, which is broken. They're not going to do anything about it. They go in and tell the superintendent, wasn't you at the time, the governor, I will be fired and you will be ignored. That's a problem. Still haven't received responses. Problem. I know that we've seen class action lawsuits, but the VDOE has become a very protective parent. And so we need to stop protecting the establishment if we want the best for our children.
President, we doing the one item or there's two items?
We can do both at the same.
I move adoption of consent agenda item B. Second.
Okay, Mr. Sturtevant.
Aye.
Ms. Gilmore. Ms. Ashton. Aye.
Aye.
Dr. Northern.
Aye.
Ms. Holton.
Aye.
And Mayor Beck. Action items, I see first review, recommendation to establish, final review. Of the recommendation to establish an advisory committee for advanced learning. Are we taking that communication anytime? So at this time, Ms. Schultz, do you have anything to present to us or yes? Alderman, good morning.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
Good.
So we have for you an update. We spoke to you in December about transitioning for first review, the Virginia Advisory Committee for Education of Gifted. This was, for reflecting our needs. Have currently and has been historically the VCAG Advisory Board. It doesn't reflect, as we told you in December, the needs of all of the advanced learners in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and certainly does not include providing you guidance on governor's school and gifted education. And so we're proposing the VCAL, the Virginia Advisory Committee for Advanced Learning, to assist with that work. It's an overview of what we presented in December, just that the need is so much broader, covering gifted ed, our 19 academic year governor schools, our 22 SRGSs, plus the 7 residential, advanced placement, international baccalaureate, and presidential scholars. And you don't really have a committee that's focused on anything other than that top goal this time. These are just the bylaws of the board that allow you to set the terms for those who are appointed for 3 years. People cannot serve more than 2 consecutive terms, and your bylaws allow you to dissolve and create advisory boards as are needed. So at the last meeting, you all had proposed, hey, could we potentially have a nationally recognized expert? We took that into account and changed it. So this is an update to what we had presented at 21 proposed representatives on NACAL. It still remains the same of having 2 per region, which comprises students, somebody from the division, YGS director, somebody from higher ed, somebody from private school. How it looks on a breakdown visually, so you can just see that so that you can see the visual breakdown, and then we get to proportionality across the Commonwealth, where previously you had very heavy representation in Region 4 and sparse representation in other locations across our superintendent regions. This is the recommended transition that we go. This was the other thing that you all brought to us. Large number of terms are either imminently expiring or have already expired, but we said let's take these terms and whose roles align with the new VCAL mission to give you that broader insight and to help you with a greater body of work. And so that allows for stability in some respects and giving that institutional knowledge from VCAG for those people to transition over. And then we would have the new members apply through the regular board method for terms that would start as soon as we back. 7 current point those recommendations can be appointed. This is 20 current VCAG. 5 have terms that they basically have current terms that go through June of next year. The other 5 are the expiring, or 15 expiring or already expired. Of the 5, only 4 have goals, which currently align. So that's the recommendation, which works out to be about 20% of the new advisory committee. These are the big we will for the new expanded role of VCAL. Some staggering so that it's not a completely new advisory. It does provide the additional member, which on Robert's Rules of Order, it helps having an odd number of votes, and it allows for you all to appointments on the expanded. This is what the carryover looks like, the positions. So the Region 5, Region 6, the Region 7 parent, and the Region 8. Can't read my computer at the same time with the classes. So that just is the visual overview of how the appointments get filled. The Superintendent of Public Instruction recommends that the Board of Education receive for final review Dissolve its Virginia Advisory Committee for Education with Gifted, establish the Advisory Committee for Learning, and B, ensure representation across the Commonwealth on its new advisory committee by adopting a composition of 2 representatives per region, 1 division employee or administrator affiliated with gifted ed and or advanced academic programming, and 1 parent plus 1 academic year governor, school director, ed representative, 1 private school gifted ed and or advanced academic programming representative, 1 superintendent, nationally recognized expert in gifted education, and the ex officio. No more questions. That went a lot faster than.
Anyone have any questions for Ms. Schultz?
On slide 7, what I see is you're gonna have 17 members appointed. So they're all their terms are going to expire. So hopefully, I don't know if there's a plan or idea, or maybe it naturally happens that some people don't do their full terms, but that could be a whole lot of turnover in 2027. It's an observation.
You're not wrong, but it also, it's inevitable that some people's terms won't go through. I think that the balance of the 4 plus the 1, so you have 5 people, 1 affiliated with DDOE, plus 4 people out of cycle. But we could, if we find that down the road in 2027, that doesn't work. But you could also have reappointed, so you could have some. So I think it strikes the right balance.
Bolton?
Just a comment, thank you for taking our input and made improvements, appreciate it.
Oh, good. I'm glad we could listen to what you had to say and offer at the last meeting and incorporate your opinions into this so that it reflects your needs.
Dr. Coons?
Thank you, Elizabeth. I know this is your passion, so I appreciate your dedicated focus and hard work on this. It's much appreciated.
Well, I want to acknowledge Amanda Nebetrol, who is our Director of Advanced Learning. She and Kevin Carr, who is our specialist in this area, have really helped put a lot of thought into this and done a lot of historical review as we get ready for some big changes on potential locations for VDOE where we don't have transformers blow. We have a major digitization project ahead of us because we don't really have a lot of things necessarily documented. And so this took a lot of research on their part, along with Jim Chapman, to really look at the history of this committee that has kind of stayed the same for a long time and really bring you leaning in, looking forward to the needs that this committee has to serve the advanced learning community in the Commonwealth.
Further questions? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the recommendation to dissolve the VCAG and establish the Virginia Advisory Committee for Advanced Learning and adopt the composition as recommended in the item? Mr. Sturdivant?
Aye.
Ms. Kilgore? Ms. Ashton? Dr. Siebert?
Aye.
Dr. Northern?
Aye.
Ms. Holton?
Aye.
And Chair votes aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have the first review. Proposal to stagger the terms for the Early Childhood Advisory Committee. Mr. Chapman.
President Creasy, if it's acceptable, Conway is still across the street. We're hoping.
Yes, we know that during the session, we must juggle. And be flexible, and we are going to do so. So let me move on to item E, final review of regular review of Board of Education guidance documents.
Yes. President Creasy, members of the board, Superintendent Coons. If I might, before we begin, obviously moving the meeting location last minute put a lot of burdens on you all and certainly on staff. But I was hoping to just take a moment to recognize 2 of the individuals without whom this meeting would not be able to happen.
and their unsung heroics should be sung at least once. But Tim Nuthall, right behind you all, and Kevin Foster in the other room. In addition to scouting out 2 different locations on Tuesday and being out very late, trying to make sure all the technology would work, we're also right back, 6 in the morning, I think, at this location yesterday and today, making sure all the setup was happening. They're just amazing, and their level of professionalism is unmatched in my experience. And I just wanted to say we are all very thankful to them for their work.
And they always are willing to do, they smile, anything that we ask.
Members of the board, we're also getting some notes about speaking into the mics. You have to kind of try and eat them a little bit. So we apologize for that, but thank you for your patience. The item that you have before is an item that you saw in first review back in December. And so we're bringing back to final review. If you don't mind, I'd like to just update you a little bit on what has happened since then. I believe at the suggestion of a few members of the board, we went back and we've revised this list of guidance documents that we were hoping to remove from the list of guidance documents on town hall for various reasons, some of which have expired, some of which we don't think meet the definition of a guidance document. We've tried to provide much more robust and specific reasons for the removal, including noting which documents will continue to live on the VDOE website. And we would like to also give our thanks to our friends at the Office of the Attorney General, Deb Love, Adam Kane, and Abby Gump, who we went through a very thorough review of all of these guidance documents, hundreds of pages and hours of their time spread over a couple of different meetings, making sure that there was, complete accord that we think that these are okay to remove from town hall. In the interest of being very thorough in the review, our bar was very high. We we've removed from that list a few of the items for different reasons. The license renewal manual, we are holding for further review because, as you know, there's some potential regulatory action on that topic. And the same thing with the high school partnerships guidelines and model liability waiver. We think we will bring that back to you individually. The physical education program guidelines. We also think we might want a separate action because there might be some other things to do with that. The student scholastic record, you might recall that we withdrew the final stage of the transcript action in December. And the policy regarding medication, we also think that there might be a different action we need to do for that specifically. But all the others, we are in very strong accord. Our documents as part of the cleanup and part of the service to the public to make sure they have the most recent up-to-date information and that there is not conflicting guidance documents that are interpreting laws from back in 2006 still on our registers that we think very much.
Okay, so can I get a motion to approve the removal of the documents as identified in this item?
Second.
Mr. Sturdivant.
Aye.
Ms. Kilgore. Ms. Ashton. Aye. Dr. Siebert.
Aye.
Dr. Northern.
Aye.
Ms. Holton.
Aye.
And Chair votes aye. Thank you, Mr. Sturdivant.
Ms. Creasy, Madam President,
Yes.
before we move on, just by way of comment, I just want to thank both the AG's office, but also Mr. Chapman and team. And you all did go through, and I appreciate as to each item to note whether this is, some of them were old and some of them were adopted last year. And so you've gone through and noted which ones are being removed because they're obsolete and which ones are simply essentially being moved from town hall to the DOE website because they don't meet the definition of guidance, but they're still live and appropriate and helpful to the divisions. And so I appreciate that clarification you went through on an item by item basis. And I think that greatly helped my understanding of the issues. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to item F, and that is the first review of proposed 2024 English Standards of Learning. Dr. Sorensen, are you coming up to give us a presentation this morning? Sure. Okay. Is there any other questions other than what we discussed yesterday during our work session before we accept this item for first review? Are you doing that for them all? Dr. Siebert.
I just, I think that the great presentation we had yesterday, the deep dive into this, very appreciative. I think the standards are very, very strong. I think the connection here, though, comes back to at the end of yesterday, we started talking about our work plan for the coming year. And this is where I think it's going to be important to map out the implementation of a number of efforts, including the different standards efforts that we have underway. Indeed, I think the standards are great. My concern is about we can do anything well as teachers in school divisions. It's very difficult to try to do everything well all at once. So that's where it's going to be pretty helpful in terms of timelines.
Further comments or questions? Ms. Holton?
Just for the sake of the public who may or may not have seen our discussion yesterday, we did have a really terrific presentation, and I refer folks back to that from Dr. Sorensen, and a robust conversation about the English language arts standards. And the bottom line is, I think we're all very impressed with the high quality work that's gone into these standards, and look forward to hearing from the public about them during our public hearings in the month of February, with the hope that we'll be able to adopt final new standards in March. But we did have a lengthy discussion both about the content, your presentation side by side, helping us understand what are the differences, was really terrific. And so I encourage those who weren't with us yesterday, who are interested in this topic, to take a look. We also did have a robust discussion about the implementation issues on that the department is hoping to accelerate more than beyond what our normal process would be for the implementation of these, which makes sense, trying to align it with the Literacy Act, but that creates all kinds of challenges. And that you all gave us some glimpse yesterday of your efforts to help address those challenges. Promised us more in March, so with the public, I'll look forward to that.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, further questions or comments? All right, hearing none, we will accept this item for first review. Thank you, Dr. Sorensen.
Thank you very much.
And we will move on to item G, final review of the Virginia Literacy Act, Division Literacy Plan template. Dr. Sorensen, are you providing us a presentation on this?
I am. Thank you.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Is this on? Okay, great.
Okay, I will share this presentation with you. Madam President, thank you very much. Board members, thank you for having me this morning. I appreciate it. And I will bring back this item to the board for final review. Again, I just wanted to ground us in the purpose of the Virginia Literacy Act Division Literacy Plan. And the work that's been done over the past month to gather stakeholder engagement and feedback on this particular plan. So stakeholder engagement, following the Board of Education approval for first review, we have done quite a bit of work around engagement sessions. We worked with the Virginia Literacy Act Work Group. This is a specific group of stakeholders that have been working with the department over the past year. This includes division, what we call architects, who really are chief academic officers, executive directors of literacy, teachers, principals, literacy experts throughout the Commonwealth who have been working around VLA implementation with the department over the past year. We also did focus sessions with superintendents. Thank you. Scott was in the audience, but we partnered with VAS to get very specific feedback from superintendents, knowing that this really is about a superintendent's vision for what literacy and literacy instruction looks like at the division level, knowing that superintendents have to sign off on the division literacy plan. We thought it would be very important to engage with superintendents around the construction of the plan and the contents of it. We also worked with division level academic leaders and English and literacy supervisors. So these are, I won't read these to you, but we had multiple stakeholder engagement opportunities over the past month to roll the plan out
talked to stakeholders in the field, whether it was superintendents, whether it was executive directors, whether it was teachers, and whether it was principals, to engage not only in what the plan is, but how to develop the plan. A lot of our conversations, surprisingly, went beyond just the plan itself. There wasn't actually a ton of feedback on the plan, the template. Got into much more robust conversation, similar to what we talk about here around the how, right? How are we doing the work? What does this look like, boots on the ground? Conversations around differentiation, right? Knowing that Fairfax is going to have a different plan than Roanoke City. And so we had conversation about the flexibility that each one of our regions and each one of our school divisions will have in creating a plan. So it was really great to be out in the field the regions and also engaging with stakeholders around the plan and get. So here's some highlights that we got. Just again, we bulleted them out. I'll start from the bottom up because the bottom up is good. Appreciating ease of the document, appreciating addressing English language learners, special education and gifted populations, and appreciation for feedback. Our multiple feedback point that we got is that the timeline was tight and that it was challenging. So you'll see in our final product that we adjust the timeline and that we have moved that for superintendent's ease. But really, folks wanted inclusive language, a mock-up to use as a guide, comprehensive literacy plans versus VELA implementation requirements. Folks wanted to know the specifics. How specific did they have to get? Folks also wanted some latitude around revision. If we grow throughout the process, can we go back and change our plan? Can we go back and reiterate what it is that we're doing as we grow as a unit? So, and the answer is absolutely. It's a continuous improvement process. So our applied revisions based upon stakeholder feedback is the new submission date is June 3rd to address timeline feedback. Superintendents overwhelmingly were grateful that it was in June rather than in May, knowing how busy May is for superintendents. Updated section 3 to include target audience and added date and year to allow for progress. It was a sticking point for many of our superintendents. Expanded section 6 to be more inclusive of caregivers and community. Or the original document said parents, and so we changed to have more inclusive language. Created more spaces and boxes. Spaces and boxes were important, and people wanted a space to ideate and create, and so we gave them more space to roam. But honestly, the template didn't change much. So what we've created as an agency is an instruction guide. Talk more about the how rather than the what. Because the what, the feedback was pretty clear. Thank you for this very clear, clean template. We need more guidance on the how. So we've created an instruction guide for our superintendents and the architects. So again, just walking you through the plan. Here it is again for your review. So you can see it one more time. Snapshot 1, here's the first page. Snapshot 2. 4 boxes. Snapshot 3. And then the timeline for implementation, you'll see that June 3rd is the initial due date. Approval of plans that we're going to turn them around and give feedback by July 1st. And that first plan will be a 1-year plan. Superintendents overwhelmingly, as well as principals, liked the opportunity for there to be a 1-year plan, knowing that in the first year, we're going to learn a lot. Even divisions that have started already really felt that in their first year, they learned so much. And even in year 2, it would be great to just have that first year to reflect. And then we'll go into the 25 to 27 biennial plan that they'll submit during the following summer, great 2-year plan. Then our next steps for support is to provide those instructions along with the release of the plan. host technical assistance for school division and leadership teams in the regions. We have an implementation plan set where we will have these series implementation plans that will help them complete their division literacy plans. And there's 4 sessions per region. We will be out and about amongst the Commonwealth. And an opportunity for divisions with their leadership teams, their instructional leadership teams, to be together, to put it together, to ideate, to create. And then, of course, just ongoing support and feedback from the VDOE to help people get there. Again, I think the board has been very articulate and a great partner to us to help us always realize this work is very hard. And we want to be there to support them in whatever way we can. So our support is obviously ongoing. So I will pause there for questions and comments. I thank you for your time, Madam President and board.
Are there any questions for Dr. Sorensen? Dr. Northern?
I'm really thrilled that we're have a document where we can see all these plans. I think from your comments, it's really serving 2 functions, one of which is just to be transparent, let folks see the information on websites and what the plan is, but also to come alongside and, as I've heard Dr. Kuhn say many times, shoulder to shoulder, and help our divisions get where they need to be. I guess one thing that really stuck out to me in the feedback was the mock-up. It's a great idea. Is that going to be part of the IG instructional guide or whatever?
No, this is separate from the instructional guides. The instructional guides are about the curriculum and about the standards. This is about the implementation of VLA and high quality instructional materials.
I got you. Sorry. I
No,
mean,
no problem.
you're doing a mock-up for them.
We will be walking them through a best practice guidance and through those implementation series, so they will see a best practice document. Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I think, it's tricky when you say describe and then you give them a box. Like, I'm all about like simplicity, but I mean, you guys know, you can get 1 sentence or you could get, 5 pages. So, to the extent that you want to think about a minimum or maximum word count, so people know, like, they can't just write 1 sentence, right? Gotta have 500 words or whatever. I mean, this is just silliness, but I'm just giving you some ideas to think about. So you get high quality information, but not onerous information. And then my other just broad thing is in section 5. So is there any reason not to just give them some labeling?
Some of those, when you do the drop downs, there are some suggestions there for them. Like, for example, Dr. King is very, very serious and has had conversations with superintendents already around walkthroughs, right? That's one of the suggestions, right? As superintendents, they should be walking through each of their buildings and really have an idea and their vision of what science-based literacy instruction looks like. And so there are suggestions in some of those drop-down boxes, and then other drop-down boxes there's no drop-down because they may have something wonderful and creative already in place. So we didn't want to give them every suggestion because they may have wonderful ideas already at their school division that they're doing. So there are drop-downs and then there are fill-ins.
In other words, sometimes like in section 3, they have to name the training, name the audience, name the date and year. And in some cases, in section 5, instead of a bunch of boxes, one of those boxes, a drop down might be.
Walkthroughs is one example. Professional learning community models is another example.
Okay, so you are giving us some ideas. Yeah. Okay, like I'm all about flexibility. I'm looking at this going, what am I doing with all these boxes?
Right.
Okay, awesome.
No, thank you.
Is there anything further? Yes, sir. Dr. Siebert.
Just to thank you, and really taking the feedback and gave this really, really solid process, really high level of engagement. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve the content of the division literacy plan to comply with the Virginia Literacy Act?
Moved.
Second.
Mr. Sturtevant.
Aye.
Ms. Kilgore. Ms. Ashton.
Aye.
Dr. Siebert.
Aye.
Dr. Northern.
Aye.
Ms. Holton?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Okay,
Before y'all leave, thank you.
thank you. Item H, first and final review of the college laboratory partnership school application from James Madison University. I believe this is you, Dr. Armstrong.
Thank you. Madam President and board members, I am pleased to provide you with this overview of the James Madison University Lab School for Innovation and Career Exploration proposal, a partnership among James Madison University, Blue Ridge Community College, and the Superintendent's Region 5 School Division of Rockingham County for your consideration for approval today. I would like to first thank the members of the College Partnership Lab School Standing Committee, including our chair, Mrs. Joan Wadista, Virginia Board of Education members, Mr. Bill Rotherham, and members Mr. John Bailey and Dr. Pam Moran for their time, their feedback, and their commitment to lab schools and the additional opportunities afforded by lab schools on behalf of the students. Joining me today are Dr. Brian Zagelder, Associate Dean for Academic Affairs and Partnerships at James Madison University, Dr. Larry Shiflett, Superintendent of Schools for Rockingham County Public Schools, Dr. John Downey, President of Blue Ridge Community College, Dr. Mark Lesperance, Dean of the School of Education at James Madison University. Upon completion of my remarks, I will invite Dr. Zagelder and Dr. Shiflett to provide a brief overview of their proposal, introduce any other special guests representing the JMU Lab School for Innovation and Career Exploration. The goal of the JMU Lab School for Innovation and Career Exploration to provide career exposure to students through real-world problem solving in collaboration with higher education professionals, pre-service college students, and industry experts, with responsive and flexible pathways in diverse areas of interest. Education, healthcare, aviation maintenance, and public administration is responsive to regional workforce demands. Students remain enrolled in their home school in Rockingham County Public Schools while being provided with several options to engage in career exploration, including dual enrollment opportunities at Blue Ridge Community College, on-site coursework on campus at JMU, or at Massanutten Technical Center. Community problems of practice will guide the direction of curriculum. Instruction will be administered in a hands-on environment and includes simultaneous interdisciplinary teaching. The public school staff, JMU faculty, and pre-service students, Blue Ridge faculty, and industry experts. Lab school would address multiple desirable outcomes for students, future teachers, and regional schools, and students will be engaged in high-level application and real-world problem solving while working closely with a team of experts from both industry and the higher education partners. JMU Lab School will provide a space for innovation where educators, industry, and pre-service professionals can explore best practices in teaching and learning. Students will engage in coursework aligned with personal interests and regional market demand, industries, and business, and streamline, and that will therefore streamline the pipeline for high-wage, high-skill, high-demand employment in the region served by Lab School. JMU Lab School application is notable for its goal to serve 200 students and reach enrollment of 600 students by the end of the grant term, which is representing the far highest enrollment of any proposed lab school. BDOE received the JMU application on August 22nd, 2023, and intervened 5 months. The agency has collaborated with the applicant as follows. During the week of August 29th, the BDOE subject matter experts provided detailed feedback in each compliance-related section of the application. The goal of the application review technical expert committee is to document the needed technical expertise, provide counseling to the applicants to identify and correct implementation of the proposed lab school, determine compliance with state law or regulation, highlight any potential problems or red flags in the application, and identify aspects of the proposal that are especially exciting and unique. Subject matter team included myself, Mr. Rob Gilstrap from Licensure Leadership, Ms. Amy Seepkins from Sustainability, Ms. Rebecca Askew and Ms. Melissa Velasquez, both from the Office of Policy, Dr. John Hendren from Professional Development, Mr. Panzer from the Office of Finance, Collins from the Department of Special Education Student Services. Each VDOE subject matter expert was provided with the laboratory criteria checklist worksheet Areas of expertise were assigned to various staff subject to their education expertise at the VDOE. Placing these comments is included in the VDOE Completeness and Compliance Report, which corresponds to the lab school application and reflects the following dimensions of compliance: an executive summary, mission and vision, educational program, governance, management structure, financial operations, placement. In addition to subject matter expert review, on-site technical assistance visit was held on October 19th, 2023, providing an opportunity for VDOE staff to engage in dialogue with the applicants related to application questions and to see the JMU facility references. The applicant was responsive to subject matter expert feedback and questions, provided edits to their application and addendums as required. Items that required attention by the applicant included clarification of staffing scalability, specifically related to JMU pre-service teachers, clarification of the lab school's plans to administer the health and PE curriculum within their interdisciplinary instructional model, clarification of compliance with human resources requirements, additional detail related to the interdisciplinary instructional model and students, expansion of language related to sustainability. Responded with their edited application and addenda on November 12, 2023, which was subsequently reviewed by the subject matter experts the week of the 9th. After further refinements included in JMU's December 15th, 2020 revised application received, it was established that the applicant had provided satisfactory responses to the VDOE, and the JMU Lab School application was placed on the agenda for standing committee review in 2024. JMU Lab School for Innovation and Career Exploration presented to the Standing Committee on January 8th and responded to questions. JMU Lab School proposal was subsequently unanimously approved by the Standing Committee upon review to be consideration by you all, the Virginia Board of Education, today. JMU application was posted for public comment following the January 8th Standing Committee meeting on January 11th and remained available until this morning, and no comment was received. On behalf of the VDOE, I submit that the James Madison University Lab School for Innovation and Career Exploration is compliant and ready to implement, and I recommend to the board that the lab school be approved and subsequently begin the contract approval process. To share more about the JMU Lab School, I am again joined today by Dr. Brian Zugelder, Dr. Barry Schiff, to provide additional information, introduce any other guests in attendance on behalf of JMU, answer any questions from the board.
Thank you, Dr. Armstrong.
Morning,
Morning.
Madam President, Dr. Coons, all the members here. Thank you so much for having us today. I'm Brian Zugelder, Associate Dean for Academic Affairs and Partnerships in the College of Education at James Madison University. So excited to talk with you today about the lab school application. And with me is Dr. Larry Shiplet, Rockingham County Public Schools Superintendent. I'd also like to acknowledge Dr. Mark Westburn's audience. He's Dean of the College of Education at JMU, a resident expert to lab schools, given all of his work in the past, which you will have seen his bio laid out in our application as well. And he's also representing President Albert on behalf of JMU. I'd also like to acknowledge Dr. John Downey, who is the president of Blue Ridge Community College. Dr. Downey has been a part of this process and has been very committed to this partnership. So we're really excited to follow the partnerships. I really do need to thank Dr. Armstrong for his leadership. As you heard, August 2023, his first day on the job, and he has been such an leader in this process in helping us get to this point, and also reiterate the standing committee's work. Ms. Wadiska, her leadership as chair of the standing committee, it just has been impeccable, and we really appreciate all the work that's. So Dr. Armstrong did a great job telling you all about the lab school. So we will just reiterate a few points. So our instructional model is designed to be different. We want school to look differently for students. We don't want it to be a traditional, from this time to this time you go to English, from that time to that time you go to science. We want it to be really interdisciplinary, where English teachers are working together with health and PE teachers, where science teachers are working with English teachers and world geography teachers. So during this half-day model, students will be a part of the lab school. They will engage in project-based learning. They will have fluid and flexible groupings. The English teacher may be working with a small group of students on one particular thing, while the science teacher is a different group of students on something else. So there will be whole group opportunities, small group opportunities, one-on-one opportunities. That's just the instructional team. In addition to the instructional team, we have other experts who will be a part of this process, industry experts, based on the community problems that we're trying to solve in the Shenandoah Valley area. Also, pre-service professionals, paraprofessionals, service teachers, pre-service counselors, pre-service social workers, people who are in public policy, public administration, and also those who are working on particular vocational and other professional areas from Blue Ridge Community College, alongside faculty from both of those institutions. Lots of wraparound support for students. So for sustainability purposes, I'm going to ask Dr. to tell you commitment.
An opportunity to share a piece about our sustainability, Rockingham County Public Schools. And our standing committee member is also present to share the board's commitment. Better process. Since we have some new board members come on board in January, I've met with them, and there is a commitment from our school to engage in this partnership in this laboratory school with James Madison University and Blue Ridge Community. And we're committed to this in terms of using space in our buildings to teach the courses and the classes, committed to providing the teachers, the paraprofessionals when they're needed to serve our students who are in lab school, and also a commitment to provide transportation for our students as they want to maybe choose different pathways, whether it's Blue Ridge Community College or JMU, making sure that all students have transportation. There's a commitment from the school board as well as from the school division to fully engage and participate in this lab school for the next 5 years.
So obviously, in addition to that, JMU is strongly committed to in-kind contributions that will occur naturally through personnel, facilities, space. It should be noted that as of today, JMU has invested $1.7 million into this project to get this up and running. Blue Ridge Community College as well, we are looking at ways of in-kind contributions through transportation, supports from faculty, and all of the other values that are added to this process. Our corporate foundation relations at JMU is strongly behind this as well, and we see that as a great way to engage with industry. The connections with industry alumni of the Shenandoah Valley are just natural connections. It also is important for you to know that at JMU, the College of Education, the most externally funded college of all the colleges at JMU. We have received close to $11 million each year, external funding, national grants, state level grants, local grants, foundations, and contracts. And leveraging those existing funds is another way of bringing in sustainability. So we're very excited about that and prepared to begin. So we talked a little bit about those partnerships. We already have industry partners anxiously awaiting to engage with us. Aviation being one of them, which is a nice connection to Blue Ridge Community College and JMU as well. Of course, Blue Ridge Community College, we also have industries in our area that are ready and accessible, like Centera Health, Merck, Purdue, Poultry. We have a lot of industry right in our area. So we're very excited about that. And I believe that concludes our presentation, and we'll open this up for questions that you might.
Are there any questions from members of the board? Comments?
Well, for your terrific presentation and all obvious hard work that's gone into this collaboration. Exciting. I particularly applaud the career exploration focus that's going at our high school students. I think it helps engagement with high school. I just want to, for clarification, this is a half-day program, and is it going to be located at all of the high schools within Rockingham County?
Yes, great question. So in year one, it will start at East Rockingham High School and Broadway High School. They're already preparing for the year one students, and then it will expand to the other two high schools in Rockingham, Spotswood and Turner Ashby. So by year two, all four high schools will have this space. By year five, we are projecting enrollment at 600.
And so all of these students will, half-day model works without a transportation matter because these students will still belong to their home
is
high
correct.
school for half the day, and they'll be in the lab school for half the day.
That's right. And they also will be able to take advantage of the extracurricular activities at their school and still be members of their school community. So it's a nice win-win compromise for all.
Further questions or comments here, Dr. Northern?
Go ahead, Debbie.
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, as a former CTE teacher for 36 years, I think this sounds so exciting. And I hope it will be something that other parts of the state in the future will somehow learn to have the resources to incorporate also. So thank you all for this. Sounds exciting for our students.
Dr. Northern?
I'm just still trying to just understand the motto because I'm in the same camp. That's super exciting. So it'll be available to all high school kids in each of these high schools eventually. So at the half a day, like you finish your whatever fourth bell, and then everybody is done halfway through the school day and goes to the lab school. And they're gonna pick one of these 7 areas. Are these gonna be pathways, or they're gonna be able to explore all 7 of these things? I guess I'm trying to figure out, like, is the idea to lead to an industry recognized credential or not? Is it just?
Yeah, so in 9th and 10th grade, it's very exploratory. It narrows down in 11th and 12th. So in 9th and 10th grade, depending on the community needs, they will have opportunities to connect to as many industries and as many pre-professional pathways as possible through this interdisciplinary approach. So they might identify a problem that says, you know, in this area, we want to work on solving clean water. So how do we do that? By bringing in English, environmental science, health and PE, world geography, to address those particular content areas while they're working with the industry. And the faculty from JMU and Blue Ridge, plus the industry experts, are all there as role models, providing that content expertise, helping the teachers be better in understanding the content, while also showing the students how to engage in that. That's the exploratory part. Get to 11th grade, they narrow that down a little bit. They have a choice. They can Blue Ridge and say, I want to focus on dual enrollment and start working on that associate's. Or they come to JMU and say, you know, I want to dive deeper into education, health and behavioral studies. And so they'll be able to take classes there. Or they could say, at this point, I want to go back to just the traditional school model, be a part of what other people are doing in my traditional model. So during the 9th and 10th grade, they will be in this lab school format for the half day. The other half day, they go right back into regular school.
Who's the teacher? Who's teaching in the 9th and 10th grade versus the 11th and 12th?
So this is the benefit of Rockingham partnership. So the Rockingham teachers will be identified and selected in partnership with the lab school and Rockingham. Will be reassigned to the lab school for their day. They will also get a supplement from JMU because they'll be engaged in some additional planning, professional development expectations. They will have a different kind of performance appraisal for that time of the day. So JMU related for 50%, and then the other 50%, they will be reassigned to teaching their traditional areas like they otherwise would in Rockingham.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just trying to get the model because it's very exciting and you guys have figured out a lot of the trick things that we've struggled with. The credits, how are they getting their credits? Like, you know, how is that working?
Yeah, so Dr. Shiflett, if you want to chime in, feel free. So they are required to address all the standards of learning for all the content. So the content area teacher will still be responsible for documenting that all the standards of learning are met. They'll just be doing it differently, where, when they're working with a group of students on one particular thing, they might be solving this clean water issue, but they're documenting how they're meeting standards of learning for English. Still are responsible for completing the standards of learning assessments as applicable. In addition to that, we have built in a plan for alternative assessments that can be used, performance-based assessments. Rockingham is already piloting this with world geography while also meeting the compliance and standards of quality.
You're a junior and senior and you have to take 4 years of English. You're saying that that half a day is where they're getting their English credits that they're required to have.
That's right, in 9th and 10th. And then when they go to 11th and 12th grade, they will be meeting those English requirements as well, either through dual enrollment or their traditional model or at JMU.
And the dual enrollment is being taught by the high school teacher who has received additional training at JMU to teach some of these higher level skills that she may not be.
Right. So for dual enrollment, yes. And Blue Ridge has a great process already in place for ensuring the qualifications and training and selection of people for dual enrollment at JMU. It will actually be JMU faculty who will be teaching courses. So 11th graders will be sitting in classes with JMU professors teaching the classes.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I had so many questions.
No, those are great questions.
Fascinating, and you figured out a lot of.
I like to think outside of the box, so thank you.
Dr. Siebert?
Madam President, yeah, super excited, and I want to kind of build on the credit piece. Extended invitation. So clearly, you're going to be looking more at a competency-based approach than a seat time approach. We're going to do this interdisciplinary. You can get fluid, obviously keep so applaud that. We obviously, appreciate and envisions that there's some flexibility about competencies and versus seat time. It's not as explicit in some places as maybe we'd like it to be. This board and the superintendent staff are very interested in looking at high school redesign and long-term. So I think, first of all, there'll be opportunities for you all to inform that work as we take it on. But also, I would, in my invitation, I think I assume would be our whole invitation would be, if you start to run into any regulatory issues related to this integration and this move to competency-based efforts, as we try to liberate ourselves from seat time and Carnegie units, then please, highlight those, because again, you'll be able to identify any headwinds and make a very compelling case differently. So,
we enthusiastically welcome and appreciate that invitation.
I think one thing that I would say is, as much as you are providing a laboratory for our students, you are also providing a laboratory for us as we move into sort of this new age of innovation and how we can move on in that redesign effort. Ms. Holton?
Just this application is so detailed and it's really very rich, and I appreciate that. I am looking, and this may be a question for Dr. Armstrong, and I'm sorry our lab school STEM members aren't able to be on this today. I do see in the financials that over the course of year 0 through year 5, the total contract asking from the lab school fund of 11.3 million. Startup, I thought the cap per school was 5 million.
Yeah, Dr. Armstrong can probably clarify that, but the startup is separated out from the contract amount. The startup is the 1 million ask, and the years 1 through 5 is the per pupil expenditure. And so there's some stipulations in the statutes on those particular funds. Tapping into the years 1 through 5 comes from the per pupil, and I believe that there are funds available for that. Dr.
November, the standing committee limit, there is not a overall ask limit. lab school. The per pupil limit is that threshold was developed using a statewide average of direct aid share. And it comes out to $9,578 per student. So if you take the year-over-year ask of a lab school and you divide it by their enrollment, and this gets trued up, of course, every year based on their March enrollment reporting. But if you take that overall ask in dollars and you divide it by the students, they cannot exceed that number. Just with this application, yes, ma'am.
And if I understand, essentially, some portion of those students the state share of those students per pupil enrollment, instead of going to the general Rockingham County Fund, is going to the lab school.
Actually, that is all from the grant fund. So this will not affect any.
Even though it's
per pupil fund.
based
This
on
is
a
a
per pupil calculation.
exactly. This
comes from the grant fund.
And that's another thing we've had to clarify. This all comes from the grant fund. It does not interfere with the stream that is going to the regions from our agency. However, we wanted to set that limit using it statewide.
And then that helps me understand, okay, so that fund was $100 million in this biennium.
That's correct.
This obviously spent on multiple bienniums, and
That's correct.
law allows essentially to carry over that original 100 million to be spent in years 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Per the grant guidelines. And yes, so the funds have to be obligated by June 30th. You'll be seeing a lot of me between now and June 30th as we process through applications. But yes, of the 100 million, 75 million were designated for the operating funds, 20 million for startup funds, which Jamie has also requested, and then 5 million for the county grant process.
And actually, that prompts, I was going to ask you separately, but I'll go ahead and ask it now. So, Dr. Becker, can you give us some sense for our workload purposes? Who else, without necessarily names, or if you can name names, how many other applications do you have pending that you expect us to see?
Yes. I'm immersed in this right now, so I can absolutely give you names. Right now, we have several applicants who are in the review cycle at the agency level, and that includes Emory and Henry, Piedmont Virginia Community College, Central Virginia Community College, University of Virginia, Richard Bland College. I'm sorry, off the top of my head, I think that's where we are right now. Applications. Mountain Gateway, I'm sorry, yes. Mountain Gateway actually had their first standing committee review. We expect them to be in front of the standing committee for their second review in March. That's 6 that we have right now, and then we have additional 10 who have planning grants, and we expect submission in the next few weeks. We have provided some deadlines for applicants because we know that this process of standing committee review, your approval, and applications submitted to our agency in mid-February, 1st of March to give us plenty of time. And we have worked to make that process as efficient as possible while still maintaining quality.
This school, the Rockingham plan is to start in August of 2024. Is your expectation that those others eventually would be starting, or would some of them be a year following?
I have received questions from some who would prefer, considering the timing of this, to start in 2025, and that is allowable. I believe the language is that this fund was referred to go to those who were starting in 2024, even 2023, because when this initiative originally. We will have most starting in 2024, but some may need more time to open, whether it's in the winter of 2025 or.
Any further questions from board members? I just want to thank Dr. Armstrong and thank JMU. I think JMU was in this process very early on. And I think as lab schools are supposed to be the R&D of what we can do and breaking the box, as you guys said. So while Joan Wadiska has said over and over, this is the R&D space and we have the opportunity. And you have persevered to create such an innovative and creative opportunity. It allows us really to think about high school redesign, and I really appreciate it to this. President Creasy, I hope we can bring others to learn from you as we're learning about thinking.
I appreciate it. Dr. Northern, you've spoken several times about dual credit being worth dual credit. And I think you have designed something that really meets very innovative and very creative opportunities while helping us think differently about high school in a way that I think is going to be nation leading. So I just want to thank all of you, Andy, for shepherding this process, but all of you for going along the process with us and really thinking creatively, and excited that we've overcome transportation barriers, allowing students to still feel like they're a part of their community culture at their high school. So I'm really, really impressed at how you have really thought about all the details and the sustainability. So thank you much for leading our way in K-12 education.
Madam President, if I may make one more comment. Lead our planning and review committee, just reminded me, a total of 19 to their current.
Okay, thank you all. Okay, and with that, may I have a motion to waive first review and approve the JMU Lab School application for a 5-year period with annual reviews?
So moved.
To delegate to the president and the superintendent final negotiation of the lab school contract, including awarding a startup fund and up to $11,344,000 per pupil funding from the College Partnership Laboratory School Fund in accordance with the board's guidelines. Okay, Ms. Kilgore, Ms. Ashton, Dr. Siebert,
Aye.
Dr. Northern,
Aye.
Ms. Holton,
Aye.
and Chair votes aye. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And with that, the board is going to take about a 10-minute break, please. Thank you. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We need to go back to item D, first review of the proposal to stagger the terms for Early Childhood Advisory Committee. And in place of Deputy Superintendent of Early Education, we have Mr. Chapman here. He is going to take over for Ms. Conway. So, Mr. Chapman, take it away.
Thank you, President Creasy. Although you did ruin my opportunity to introduce myself as Jenna Conway, that might be the only time I was really able to do that. But President Creasy, members of the board, Superintendent Coons, yes, I'm here to fill in and brief you all on a proposal to stagger the terms for the Early Childhood Advisory Committee. As you know, the Early Childhood Advisory Committee is one of 6 advisory committees that the board has doing important work for it in the field and really getting into the details. ECAC, as it's called, the Early Child Advisory Committee, has been around since about 2021 and was formed under statute under Chapter 14.1 of Title 22.1 of the Code of Virginia. And it's been really integral to a number of different projects that the board has seen over the years. I might draw attention to the VQB5 plan, the Early Childhood Rating System, revisions to general procedures and background checks when all of those regulations came over from the Department of Social Services as these translated. Some major regulatory actions got right underway, including these revisions that the Early Childhood Advisory Committee played an absolutely essential role in doing this work. And more recently, you recall seeing a NORA, a Notice of Intended Regulatory Action, for revisions to the standards for licensed child day centers, which will be moving to the proposed stage, hopefully after the public comment period closes here at the end of the month. So the challenge that the Early Childhood Advisory Committee is undergoing right now is, since that committee was formed in and the appointments were made back in February of 2021, all of those appointments are set to expire at the exact same time at the end of this year. And so since they're all set to expire, that puts the work that the board is doing in a little bit of a precarious position because there's huge risk of losing a lot of institutional knowledge if all 22 members are being replaced at the same time. This could impede ECAC's ability to vote, to conduct business. And also that places a large burden on staff in order to have to recruit for all 22 positions simultaneously. Since this is the first of the 3-year terms, under the board's bylaws, committee terms are set for 3 years, but then after that, members can only serve 2 consecutive 3-year terms. So basically, this would be the last bite at the apple, and then no members would be re-eligible in 2027. So, we would like to think proactively and figure out, well, how can we make sure that this problem isn't going to affect the work that the committee is doing, and the important work for the board. So the proposal that we have for you here is to start staggering these terms now after these first years, after this first term. And so the idea would be to start breaking this up into phases. And so phase 1, we would start 7 to 8 of the positions running on terms from July 1st, 2024 through June 30th of 2027. Phase 2, we would take another 7 to 8 appointments. The board would begin those terms 5 that run to 2028, and in phase 3 begin in July 1st, 2026 and run them to 2025. Members holding the positions that aren't advertised in a given year, if you're attentive, basically allow them to remain in their positions and without having to reapply until the position is posted again and the phase 2 or phase 3 begins. We do have standing advice. We're okay to do this from the Office of Attorney General. Positions were randomly selected, of which position would start, which phase. You might recall that the Early Childhood Advisory is controlled by statute in terms of the appointments and which of the appointments are required. And so we've done our best to randomize which positions fall into which of the phases, with a couple of minor exceptions that I'll point out for in the next slide. And if a position becomes vacant prior to the proposed date of advertisement, if someone is unable to continue in the expired term, then the plan would be to re-advertise and correspond to that end date with the appropriate phase. So here is the plan for you of which positions that are required by statute are going to begin in which phase. And I'll just highlight the two exceptions to the randomization. The star next to the Head Start provider in phase 1, that's not school-based. That is currently a position that is held by the chair of the Early Childhood Advisory Committee. And so, continuity that would benefit the committee, in order to make sure that leadership was able to continue. And we've started in phase 2, the 2 stars for the 2 asterisks for the Early Childhood provider that is not funded is currently the vice chair. And so we're hoping that that will allow for a little it's able to continue its work moving forward. But other than those 2 exceptions, this is a random distribution of these positions across the phases. And so the benefits of these term limits being staggered in this way, one, it will allow us to continue that we're ensuring membership representing across, geographically, that we have like a wide range of geographical representation across the early childhood sector. It's certainly going to make sure that we establish forums and conducting business using Robert's rules. And we hope that it's going to streamline our announcement of vacancies and allow us to 22 positions at one time. All the positions aren't going to be able to be dedicated the same amount of thoroughness. Certainly, we hope that it's going to because we're not advertising as many at the same time. That's the presentation for you. We do have this for first review, so we expect that it will come back in March, for the board's full consideration.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chapman. And so the board will take this item for first review, and we will see you, see Ms. Conway in March, perhaps, instead of you. And so we can move on to our presentations and written reports. I would just like to bring to the attention of the board the 2 reports that you see on the SharePoint site. One, I just felt like it was a good opportunity for us as a board to really review what the current standing committees are of the board and to get a good handle on how many members there are on each one of those standing committees. And in addition to that, sort of look at what their terms are as we talk about these different items, like sort of our conversation about the Advanced Learning Committee last month really prompted my desire for us to have this information so that we as a board can continue to keep our eyes and ears open for those that we may feel are suitable in taking over some of these roles on those committees. If we know people that we can reach out to encourage them to apply to be a part of those committees, that's great. And that's why we do have that particular item I here on the agenda. And then additionally, I wanted to make sure that we were all clear on those dates that we had committed to, because I know for my purposes, I need to make sure that I've gotten my dates all on my calendar appropriately for these the ELA public hearings that are coming up. So just wanted to make sure that everybody had that at the top of mind too as we move into that. And Mr. Chapman, I do not want to catch you in an off moment here, but I just did want to have an opportunity for us to have a little bit of a conversation, or at least just some information, and maybe our council can help us with this too. Just that when we do have these public hearings and we have committed as board members to being there at those hearings, we do need to honor that because we are, I believe, required to have in those public hearings, particularly around the SOLs, at least one member of the board. Is that correct? I thought that's what we said for history. I could be wrong. Anyway, this is here for you to be able to go back and just check on your calendars and make sure that you are a part of that. And then unless you have any comments on these 2 items, Dr. Coons?
We have had, I've had the opportunity to meet with the elementary principals and secondary principals and BSBA this week. And they are very interested in members of some of our standing committees and hearing their voice. So as we're thinking about that, they have asked that we reach out to their associations and make sure, I know we did that in particular with some of the work groups over the past year, but just want to recommend that the board considers those associations being active and giving us feedback. We actually met last month with the elementary principals and got feedback on the accountability piece. So they have been active providing support. So encourage everybody to consider those associations as you're looking.
Any other comments on either of these two items? Ms. Holton?
Just to, on one of the committees here is ABTEL, the Advisory Board on Teacher Education and Licensure. And I am the liaison, the board liaison to ABTEL, or at least I have been serving in that role. Happy to share it with anybody else who's interested. And I just wanted to report that that's a very earnest, hardworking group. Teachers and educators and ed prep program representatives, all sorts of PTA representatives, et cetera. And they had a meeting earlier this month where they've got a couple of significant proposals they are hoping to have ready to bring to us later this spring. One suggestion I made to them, one of the proposals I thought was interesting and complex. And I suggested that when they bring it to us, that they ought to bring it to us. In times past, basically their recommendation comes to us in writing and Chapman or somebody presents it. But I was recommending, especially when they've got something more substance going on, they may want to come present to us at a work session and or come present on the agenda item. And
I certainly would second that, because as much as we can see those people and put names with faces who
Right.
are helping to serve the Commonwealth by their service to our advisory committees, we certainly want to hear from them. And I think it might be a good opportunity perhaps in the future if we can get this on our agenda to, from time to time hear from those chairpersons of those committees in order to just get a brief update.
right. And I mean, we get recommendations from them on a routine basis, about adding programs, et cetera, that we probably don't need them to be in person on, but this particular proposal, I think is one that will be interesting to the board, but it's complex. And to have them present it so that we can ask questions and understand and really in partnership with them on the content of the proposal. Be a good time.
Absolutely. Dr. Coons?
We could line those up with some of the work plan conversation yesterday. So you have one on teacher licensure in July that we proposed. We could definitely have the ABTEL come and do some presentation aligned with some of those priorities and work plans, if that would be.
I think it would also just be helpful to hear exactly the purpose of those committees as well. I mean, ABTEL is certainly an extremely active, very in-depth and very critical piece of the puzzle to the board. And so I think that would be a good opportunity for us to all hear about the integration of licensure and how all of that fits with PPPs and, particularly given that those several of us on this board are very, very interested in, looking at some opportunities we have in the licensure area. We should certainly hear from them as well.
This particular proposal, I think they were hoping to finalize it at their February meeting, and we're anticipating asking to bring it to us in March, but it may well be that we could suggest have more time for you at our April meeting or some later time.
Dr. Northern.
Yeah, I mean, this will reveal my ignorance, but I don't know if are we also allowed to have temporary committees? I'm just thinking as we move forward and trying to figure out how we're going to move hopefully from a staffing base to a student-based finance system for the state and what a process that's going to be. I think we could really use some expertise around the state around finance issues. And again, I don't know the process for trying to convene a temporary board. I imagine, we might not need them for 5 or 8 or 10 years, but maybe there's some other way we can get expertise as we have these conversations, but just a idea to throw out there.
Yeah, certainly, and, that any fees can be established by the president in consultation with the superintendent. So we certainly have that opportunity to do that. Anything else on either of these items before we move into discussion? Discussion of current issues. Does anyone have anything for that segment of the agenda today? Ms. Wolfen?
I just thought I would note, again, as we've noted before, that the department's been working with building issues for the longer haul, and particularly this week. And I think they're back in the Monroe building today. The power is back on. So at least some of your staff are back there. But we've all been reading in the newspaper about the longer term issues with Monroe building. And I just wanted to, number one, express sympathy to Dr. Coons and her staff as they're potentially going to be homeless soon, or transition and transient, and then ask, I mean, I don't know that it affects us that directly, but it can be helpful or supportive, or how might it affect us, and what's your sense of when you're going to be?
Dr. Coons?
Well, first I want to thank you for being so flexible and supportive coming here. I think on Tuesday, when we weren't sure, going back and forth, this board was incredibly supportive with me here, being a little bit out of sorts with the tech, amazing work that our tech people and that the Library of Virginia have provided. I just want to, we called you all Tuesday night and you were all gracious and lovely and supportive, and appreciate that. We do expect to be moving over the next year. We have experienced more interim problems than just the big problem on Tuesday, and our staff has been incredibly resilient. But it is time for us to have safe and secure, long-term facilities. So we expect a phased move, because moving 550 people at once is not productive in logistics management today. So as we learn more in our partnership with Department of General Services, we've been working very closely with them. I want to give a huge shout out to Jeremy Rayleigh, who is across the street at the General Assembly building today, but he has been working in close coordination with them to figure out how we move when we move. We hope to have that information in March, and we'd be more than happy to share that. But we are also working, as Elizabeth said earlier, on phase one, which is digitization of records. A lot of our historic records are in boxes, in places. And so Elizabeth has been the first one to take this on and kind of dig through all of our gifted records. But we are working with Dave and Diane Kernahan, who you could not meet yesterday, and really thinking through our digitization process to make sure we're following responsibilities of records, but also modernizing the way we support those records. So phase one for us is the digitization process, and making sure we digitize records. And then it will be thinking about personal space, how we want to work. Are there people who want to do more telework? How do we do that? How do we come together? We're working through that plan, and then we'll be moving in a phased approach later this year.
Thank you for that update.
We'll keep you
It's a lot of
updated.
challenge. It's one more thing on your very busy plate.
It is important to make sure our staff have good working conditions, and that is essential.
Anything further as far as discussion goes?
I just want to thank the board. We have had a lot of things. You talked about going out for English language arts standards. We had a lot of board members out for outreach, conversation, the ability to partner together and work on important issues. And I appreciate the collaboration on the work plan, especially yesterday, because it really helps us know what the board wants and the direction of the board, helps the team get collaborative. Some of your asks, such as the lunch yesterday with the executive leadership team, have been tremendously helpful to my team, very positive. So we appreciate the ongoing partnership. It's really important. So thank you.
Anything else? I think just once again, thanks to the team for this shift. And I can't say I look forward to being back in the Monroe building, because I have personal issues around the elevators there. Uh, so that, all of that being said, thanks to everyone who made this possible in such an efficient manner. And so, with that, if there is nothing else, I'm not sure I'm beating my own record here today. We're gonna have to keep tabs on that, but, that being said, we are adjourned.
Mhm.